I think we have an amazing opportunity in Florida with having recently fully put forward the implementation of LOSUM. I think it does present a great opportunity to restore the ecosystem on the East Coast, the West Coast, and in the south of Florida. But we all know that there are still challenges, many challenges that we face between all of those points to restore that ecosystem. As much as I was very grateful that LOSUM received that final implementation on August 12 of 2024, I did not like that roughly 100 days afterwards, it was decided to already deviate from what are the schedules within LOSUM and go to something known as a lake recovery mode. And as we look at that lake recovery mode, which may potentially see discharges into my community, the East Coast of Florida, up through June, I want to give you all the encouragement to ask these questions as you're looking at plans for restoration. Does what we do with restoration grow more grass or make us lose more grass in total? You might grow more grass in Lake Okeechobee by lowering the levels of it, but when you do that, how much grass are you destroying out the Caloosahatchee or out the St. Lucie? Because if you're not doing that math to actually determine, are you creating a net benefit, and it's actually creating a net negative, then we're not restoring the ecosystem. We're ultimately doing more harm. Are we creating more value than what we're losing? If we're not creating more value than what we're losing, that's a big problem. And the value is not just related to the level of nutrients in the water. That's certainly a big deal when we talk about Lake Okeechobee and whether we're taking the conditions that permanently exist on Lake Okeechobee, where there is almost, I would say, a 3/4 of the year presence of algal blooms in many years that we face. We've seen them show up very early and extend to very late in the year. Are we taking those conditions and are we spreading those conditions to other parts of our ecosystem? Because we know that those are freshwater algal blooms that occur in Lake Okeechobee, and they would not occur in our saltwater estuaries, but for our saltwater estuaries being turned so fresh that freshwater algal blooms can grow. So are we creating the conditions to spread contamination and spread pollution and spread something that the EPA has literally labeled as toxic, greater than 8 parts per billion, these algal blooms that we deal with? Or are we actually restoring? You have to ask that question. Appearance matters when we're talking about value. The first thing that we see and we think when we meet a person, we're going to look at them and we're going to know in our mind, does that person look healthy or does that person look sick? We see it when we look at a plant. Does that plant look healthy or does that plant look sick? And we see it when we look at a waterway. Does that waterway look healthy or does it look sick? Does it look like the color that it's supposed to be? It matters whether it looks the way that it's supposed to be. Whether we on the coast have our Bahama blue waters that people purchased homes and people built restaurants and built businesses on top of. It matters as a part of our environment that the ecosystem look healthy on top of actually being healthy. And I would say, don't forget about that. Just to move brackish water and off-color waters and things like that, you are destroying value within communities. And you are hurting tourism across the state, and you're doing a number of things that ultimately create a net negative for various communities. And you have to ask, overall, are you creating a net negative across the state of Florida? Because if you are, the policy does not make sense to conduct. And you got to ask, are you cleaning more water than what you're actually making dirty? Because we know that if we have a contaminant or a nutrient or pollutant in one water body, it can be isolated to that spot. We know that there's continually more nutrients flowing into Lake Okeechobee from the north and maybe from other places as well. If we isolate those nutrients and those pollutants to one area, is that a much more sound policy for restoring our ecosystem than purposefully spreading those nutrients across to other water bodies to which we know they are very harmful for? I know for my side of the state, we don't want one drop of water off of Lake Okeechobee coming into our coastal estuary. Those numbers are different for the Caloosahatchee, where they need a certain minimum amount of cubic feet per second for a healthy ecosystem along that waterway. And those things have to be looked at individually, as well as to the south. What do the Everglades need very specifically, whether it's in July or whether it's in January, to have a healthy ecosystem? And that has to be looked at constantly, but they have to be looked at individually. And ultimately, as we're looking to restore the ecosystem, ensure that we are creating a net positive across the whole state, and that we're not doing one policy to simply appease one area or one water body or one community, or create an appearance that actually doesn't result in a net positive for the entire state. That's my encouragement to you all as you think about the policies that you review, from LOSUM to everything related to the Everglades and the Pine Islands and the flow equalization basins that we deal with, and each and every estuary that we deal with, and every canal and that we deal with. As you think about the policy dealing with all of these, please work to ensure that you keep in mind that in the end, we are creating a net positive for the state, and not just doing something because it sounds good, but ultimately ends up hurting far more. I thank you all for letting me address you. Many of us have known each other for a lot of years doing this. We don't always agree on everything, but we keep coming back to the table and working on everything together. Colonel, I welcome you as our new colonel. Baptism by fire, as they say. You've been at it for a little bit now, but we look forward to getting to know you more and working with you more. And in that, appreciate you all. I don't know if you have any questions for me. If you don't, I'm happy to get out of your hair. Hey everyone, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, please click like and subscribe. I will be back on YouTube with more exclusive content, so stay tuned.